Here we go again, another exciting video on physics, and there's people who say that gravity is not a force, and that is nonsense, and this is going to be an introduction to the subject, part 1. Einstein has been very influential and has influenced some people to say that gravity is not a force, and that is nonsense, of course. Einstein has influenced people to say all sorts of nonsense that has damaged physics and a lot of other areas. So on to this issue of gravity not being a force, being nonsense. I'm going to look at this video by this physicist, and Wikipedia explains who she is, Sabine Hossenfelder. And this is the video that we will be looking at. Title there is saying gravity is not a force, but what does that mean? And the first slide is showing even physicists get this wrong. So first of all, to note, when she says even physicists get this wrong, what that really means is that physicists are in disagreement. Some will say one thing and some will say something else. Sabrine has decided she's going to give what she thinks, and if any physicist disagrees, then decided they are wrong. There's a great deal of disagreements in physics. I disagreed with what she was saying and made a comment in the comment section of her video and got deleted. This treatment is common. People like her want to live in an echo chamber, only hearing things that agree with her. So let's get into this video.
This video is all about Albert Einstein. Yes, that guy again. Einstein is famous for his theory of general relativity. It's taught us that gravity is not a force. And
note that they use the word taught. She says his, which is Einstein theory of general relativity, it's taught us that gravity is not a force. By that it means her interpretation of general relativity is not something that Einstein actually said, as far as I know. So I'm disagreeing with her interpretation. Her interpretation of general relativity is false. I could call up a course that teaches physics, e.g. For instance, this one, Khan Academy. If we look down to its key points, it says the force of gravity, or gravitational force, pulls objects of mass towards each other. So Khan Academy teaches that gravity is a force. That disagrees with Sabine, but I think Sabine is tied in with some teaching physics courses, teaching what she says. So we have a split between what is taught. Some teach gravity is a force, and some, like Sabine, teach it's not a force. Anyway, I could also cite a physicist who's in disagreement with her. This person is supposed to be an expert on relativity. It's Kip Thorne, an American theoretical physicist. Kip Thorne has written this book called Black Holes and Time Warps. In it, Kip Thorne explains about gravity, and in this section he's talking about tidal gravity and space-time curvature. He says, imagine yourself an astronaut out in space far above the Earth's equator and falling freely toward it. Although as you fall you will not feel your own weight, you will in fact feel some tiny residual effects of gravity. These residuals are called tidal gravity, and they can be understood by thinking about the gravitational forces you feel, first from the viewpoint of someone watching you from the earth below, and then from your own viewpoint. So he is calling gravity a force. He says gravitational forces. That disagrees with what Sabine is saying. Kip Thorne gives a cute little picture like this of a person falling towards the earth from outer space. As you fall towards the earth, tidal gravitational forces stretch you from head to foot and squeeze you from the sides. So once again, we're having mention of gravitational forces. This time it's calling it tidal gravitational forces. Kip Thorne goes on to give this. It's two balls thrown into the air on precisely parallel trajectories. If able to pass unimpeded through the earth, will collide near the Earth's centre. So if you drop two balls, they will be able, if they're able to pass through the earth to the centre of the gravity of the earth, then as they fall, they will get closer together until they hit at the centre. So Kip Thorne explains it. Now comes the payoff of this thought experiment. Each ball moved along a precisely straight line through space-time. Initially, the two straight lines were parallel. Later, they crossed. The balls collided. This crossing of initially parallel straight lines signals a curvature of space-time. From Einstein's viewpoint, space-time curvature causes the crossing. That is, causes the ball's collision. And I'm referring now to a figure 2.4, which I'm not bothering to show you. And carrying on from there, from Newton's viewpoint, tidal gravity causes the crossing. Thus, Einstein and Newton, with their very different viewpoints on the nature of space and time, give very different names to the agent that causes the crossing. Einstein calls it space-time curvature, Newton calls it tidal gravity, but there's just one agent acting, therefore space-time curvature and tidal gravity must be precisely the same thing, expressed in different languages. Reiterating, Einstein's general relativity and Newton's tidal gravity theory are expressing the same thing but in different languages. General relativity talks of it as space-time curvature, and Newton talks about it in terms of forces. Newton has gravity as a force, thus Sabine is talking nonsense when she says gravity is not a force. If treating it in the context of Newton theory, then gravity is a force. If treating gravity in general relativity, then it's space-time curvature. So she should have said, in the context of Newton theory, gravity is a force, but that is being treated as space-time curvature in general relativity. And of course she doesn't say that. So what she actually says is thus nonsense. As Sabine proceeds to talk more and more about gravity, she builds upon this nonsense of saying gravity is not a force. It's a building process. By saying the nonsense that gravity is not a force, Sabine then builds more and more nonsense to line with that initial nonsense.
Einstein is famous for his theory of general relativity. It's taught us that gravity is not a force. And that's probably the most misunderstood physics fact ever. Like, even physicists get it wrong all the time.
So Sabine says that physicists get it wrong all the time, but the irony is she's one of those physicists. This is an initial introduction to the subject, and we'll go through the rest of the nonsense she says in further videos. So it's to be continued. Thank you.